Welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. This is a sacred space where healing begins, intuition awakens, and your spirit remembers its power. I'm your host, Barbara Savin, author, energy healing specialist, hypnotherapist, and spiritual life coach. For over 35 years, I've guided thousands of souls to protect their energy, trust their intuition, and step into their most empowered self. I invite you to join me for heartfelt conversations, spiritual insights, and gentle practices that nurture your soul and inspire your daily life. And together, we'll explore how to rise above negativity, trust your inner wisdom, and embrace the truth of who you are, a divine, radiant being of love and strength. So take a breath, settle in, and know you are not alone on this journey. You are loved. You are supported, and you are more powerful than you've ever been told. So let's rise together and join me now as your host. So thank you for listening today, and welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Savin, here to help you reclaim your power, your energy, and your authentic self. And today it is such a blessing to share this sacred space with my very special guest. Her light, her wisdom, and her energy are gifts to all of us. So welcome, Lora.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for our conversation.
Me neither, believe me. And I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'd love to introduce you to my listeners and share a little bit about you.
Great.
Lora Cheadle, right?
Yes.
Okay, is a former attorney. She's an author and channel for the librarians, a collective of guides overseeing humanity's soul's lessons. She helps people alchemize betrayal into spiritual growth through intuitive guidance, somatic healing, and legal insight. And she's also the author of 2 books. One is Flaunt, Drop Your Cover and Reveal Your Smart, Sexy, and Spiritual Self. And the other book is It's Not Burnout, It's Betrayal. And Lora is also the host of a podcast, Flaunt, Create a Life You Love After Infidelity or Betrayal. Boy, that's a whole big thing in itself. I'll be telling you. So welcome. This
Thank you.
conversation should be very interesting.
Yeah, I really can't wait to dig in.
Yeah. So let me ask you. I know you're a lawyer. You're now an intuitive healer, and I know you're also a hypnotherapist, right?
Yes, I am, just like you.
Right. I know that we
Yeah,
have something a lot in common.
we
So
do.
how did you get into all of this, of betrayal, and burnout?
Yeah, it's such an evolution that didn't make sense until I started looking back on it, which I think is true for so many of us. I originally went to law school because I was a real big believer in justice. The idea of righting wrongs, helping the right people get what they wanted. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Just like that whole idea of justice. I would see so much inequity in the world I would experience, and I would think, I want to dedicate my life to really helping create a beautiful, just world. And for the most part, I really enjoyed practicing law. But I started to get disillusioned because practicing law really isn't about creating justice. And I didn't like that. And also so many times the remedies that were available in court weren't really the remedies that would help somebody.
Hmm.
So as I was burning out, I had 2 kids under 2. My husband traveled half time. I had aging grandparents who were going through health crises. There was just so much going on, and I decided to walk away.
Oh,
And
wow.
I, yeah, and I had always been interested in spirituality, wellness, physical fitness, mental fitness. So that's when I went back to school. I became a hypnotherapist, a somatic attachment therapist, really took a deep dive into the wellness and the spiritual world. And I thought I had found my calling. I thought that was it until I found out that my husband had been cheating on me
Oh,
for
sorry.
15
Oh
years.
my. Oh
Oh,
God.
yeah, of our 23-year
Oh
marriage.
man.
Yeah. And that's when I really took the deep dive into understanding betrayal, what it is, what it's not. And so many of the things that I had done in the past suddenly made sense and helped me really create this process for identifying and recovering from betrayal.
Wow. So you never, wow, that's a long time to be cheating, 15 years. Oh my.
I
It breaks
know.
my heart just hearing this from you. Um, h- how did you figure it out that he was cheating?
It it was it was a series of things because he had been cheating with multiple women, one on and off the whole time, and then several along the way. So there was a lot of little pieces that I found out. First I found a message with some flirty texts, and I thought we had this conversation, and it's like, oh, I'm just flirting. It's harmless. And I'm thinking, oh, of course. I mean, I get that. Not really okay, but okay, we addressed it. Then I found more texts from another woman that were even more inappropriate. I pushed him on that one, and he finally did admit to having sex with her, physically cheating. Then I went to his email and I started looking through, and this was so miraculous in and of itself. I found an email that had been sent 14 years earlier in his sent items that had never been deleted about the 1 year anniversary with this other affair partner.
Oh my.
Yeah. And then after that, um, we separated temporarily through all of that. And I actually I kept feeling like there was something else, there was something more. I contacted an intuitive that we had used before for Akashic record readings. And I was like, I don't know if you can see anything in there, but I feel like there's more. And she said, I feel like there's two more. I see two more energies in there. And I contacted him and I said, I feel like there's more. You've got to be honest with me. You have nothing left to lose. And he said, there are two more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he say why? I mean, here you have children,
Yeah.
you had a good job. I mean, I don't understand why somebody would do that.
Yeah. We still have, because shockingly, we ended up getting back together through this process.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. We had a great life. We have a very good life. We had a ton of fun, close family, close friends, all of that. And that was part of the reason I felt inside there was more to the story because nothing would make sense. It's not like we were constantly fighting. It's not like we didn't have a good physical relationship. It didn't make sense at all.
Mm.
As he has had his own spiritual awakening through this, he also acknowledged and admitted for the first time the severe trauma that he went through as a child.
Yeah,
He was
teaching
in
as a
foster
child.
care.
Hmm.
Yeah. He was mentally abused. He was physically abused. He experienced extreme poverty. And not that that's an excuse, because it's not an excuse. It's just that he never dealt with that trauma. So the trauma was always under the surface. And anytime he would be fearful, afraid that things were too good, afraid that things were too bad, afraid that things might shift. Anytime any kind of fear came up, his go-to mechanism for validation, for comfort, was cheating.
Was cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in his mind, it was fine
Yeah.
for whatever
Because,
reason.
yeah, because nobody was going to know.
Hmm.
And it could validate him, and it made him feel powerful, masculine.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Wow. That's a tough one to forgive.
It's a lot. Yeah,
Well, yes,
it's a
it
lot.
is. Um, but you did evidently, and you were both able to, get through it. It's, you know, it's amazing, and I understand to an extent how, that he felt, but also you. I mean, you going through all this, and I feel in my heart. I mean, not that we forgive everybody, but
Yeah.
sometimes we need to forgive. I was married. It was about maybe, oh, I actually had two kids at the time. My daughter was maybe 3. My son was 5. Now mine, I'm married 56 years now. Uh,
Nice.
and he was always working. And one day someone just caught my eye.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and it happens, and you say to yourself, "Oh no, no, no! I'm not going to do it." But I ended up cheating, and
Hmm.
it was just one time,
Hmm.
and it was so hard for me to live with. And I said
Yeah.
to myself, "Okay, I have a choice here. I can either tell him what I did, and hopefully he forgives me, and my marriage doesn't, fall apart, with the
Hmm.
2 children, you know." Or he walks away and doesn't understand. Well, one night, in bed, I said to him, I have something I have to tell you. And he looked at me. He says, "What?" You have a choice here.
Hmm.
You can forgive me, or you can walk away. And
Yeah.
if you walk away, I understand. Um, but I'm hoping you forgive me." Uh,
Yeah.
and then I told him that I had an affair, and he looked at me, and I was waiting for like complete fallout and screaming and yelling and cursing at me. And
Yeah.
instead, he looked at me and he says, "But why? I don't understand." And I says, "I guess I was lonely.
Hmm.
Here I was, raising 2 children, mommy, daddy, poopies. I mean, all the things that you do as a mom." I says,
Yes.
"And somebody just happened to show me attention when you were always working." And I knew he was working because he would always call me from work. He worked at the phone company by the World Trade Center. And
Oh.
I said to him, I guess I needed affection in a different way, and he forgave me, and we
Hmm.
we hugged, we kissed, and I swore to him I will never ever do anything like that again, and I never have. We're
Right.
married 56 years, but the thing is, what I'm getting at, sometimes it's very hard for a partner to tell another partner, "I've
Yeah.
really screwed up here. I made a mistake,"
Yeah.
and to ask for forgiveness. Not everybody can forgive.
No. No.
And forgiveness and acceptance of whatever the situation is such a big thing. I mean, he forgave me, and I said to myself, if it was the other way around, would I would have would I have forgiven him? I don't know.
Right. Because you never know until you're there.
Right.
It's like so many people are like, if he cheats, I'm out of here. And it's like, well, until you're there, you don't know.
You don't know. So, how did you find it in your heart to forgive, his infidelity for all those years?
Yeah. It's multifaceted. It's not that it's just a quick, easy thing. I think, first of all, I really came to the understanding what it was about. It wasn't about me. I wasn't ugly. I wasn't,
Mhm,
you know what I mean? I wasn't a bad partner. He didn't want a divorce. It had nothing to do with me
mhm,
or our life. It was him, and it was his way to deal with the pain that he was facing. And because he's a man in this society, because of his background, because of so many different things, he was not good at identifying his emotions or communicating his emotions or even knowing what was going on. It was about him. It wasn't about me at
mhm,
all.
mhm,
And I think that was that first part was understanding, had I been in his shoes, this kind of would have made sense and it wouldn't have been about me anyway.
mhm.
So why would I leave this marriage when everything else was really fine And in a weird way, it did make sense. And that was one layer, but that was my first layer, my first road in.
Yeah, because I remember him telling me, I'm so sorry you felt lonely.
Yeah.
And I realized then, wow, it was his way of forgiving me.
Yeah.
And then we worked it out. I mean, he still had to work because we were home with two children. We lived in Brooklyn in a small apartment,
Tough.
and I was grateful for everything that I had, believe me. But, sometimes I don't know what happens. It just happened, but it doesn't make it right in any
No.
way, you know.
No, it doesn't. And I loved what you said is like how bad you felt, because that was another piece of it.
Hmm.
His shame kept him trapped in that spiral
Yes,
and kept him acting out in maladaptive ways again and again. Because he said the first time it was like so clear it was a mistake. He walked away from, he was horrified, he was ashamed, he couldn't handle it. And then it becomes, how do I hide this? How do I hide it?
exactly.
And then it's almost hopeless. Well, I might as well do this again because I can't get through this.
But that's why I never did it again, because I felt so ashamed. And so, what did
Yeah.
I do? And I didn't want to destroy something that I had. We were, high school sweethearts, and, through his army and, the service and everything
All
that
of
we've been through. And I said to myself, all right, if I didn't tell him, would I have cheated again? I don't know.
it. Hmm.
And that does go through your mind, because again, being lonely,
Yes.
but yeah, I had to take that chance, and
Hmm.
just be honest, and whatever way it went, I knew I needed to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the integrity of you and you aligning up with your soul. And that was something else that really helped me. It was like, he really did he cheat on the marriage? Sure. But did the harm was him against himself. He violated his own integrity. It didn't change me. I absolutely had my expectations ruptured. I absolutely have to rewrite my past. I absolutely have to figure out how to deal with my sadness, my anger, my shame. I have to rebuild my identity. But this is making me wise. This is making me strong. This is making me way more powerful than I ever was. And his injury was to himself because he violated his own integrity, and
So
that's for
integrity.
him to deal with,
Right.
not
And
me.
I understood that too. So yeah,
Yeah,
and that's huge when you
huge.
can, look at yourself in the mirror and say, wow, what did I do here? This isn't who I am.
Yeah, yeah. And similarly, when you find out, one of the thoughts that go through your mind is like, well, now I'm going to go revenge cheat. And then
Hmm.
it was like for me, but that's not who I am.
Hmm.
And that was that thought too. Do I want to? Well, sure, in theory, but I know if I do that, I'm going to feel guilty, and that's hurting me.
Exactly. Yeah, because I know he did not, and
Hmm.
actually it made us grow stronger with each other.
Yes. Yeah, us too. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary and we're,
Congratulations.
thank you. Right back at you. Yeah, but we're both more raw. We're both more real. We are able to communicate at a deeper level and actually solve problems instead of just kind of each do our thing.
Right, exactly, exactly. And that's where all the awareness and the that spiritual growth comes in.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I I know, like, for me, it was definitely for myself a spiritual awakening, but um how can you explain, what it really means, how betrayal might actually open the door for someone, for them to understand there's a deeper awareness, or a soul growth to, having being betrayed.
Hmm. Yeah, I am so passionate about this because the potential for growth is huge. We go on in our life, and the way this world is kind of set up is that we're victims of circumstance, that things happen to us, and that we don't have a lot of power. And that when we do have power, it is like this power over other people to assert our will. And
Hmm.
what betrayal woke me up to is all it was a mirror. It mirrored back all the ways I was betraying myself by believing the victim story, by giving my power to other people,
Hmm.
by not being happy unless something outside of me was different. And it woke me up to how powerful I am and that I can be victimized but not be a victim. And that this world, this life really can be the way that I choose it to be.
It's funny that you say about victim because with my clients, I always tell them you don't want to stay in that victim mentality because you'll never be able to heal. You'll always be in yesterday's energy and you're not being able to move forward. So being a victim is the worst thing. Of course, we all feel like victims, at times,
Right.
but you don't want to stay in that victim mentality. And I think that's like one of the stages of healing is to actually allow yourself to release that victim, from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I do too with being a former attorney. If you go to court to get justice, what does that mean? Sometimes it's just in the form of monetary compensation, but it's this external sense of justice. And I challenge my people a lot. Even if the person who hurt you came up and said and did all the right things, would you still feel like you had been made whole? And it's interesting because so often people are like, no, because the story, it still happened to me. And that's that internal sense of justice. Until we shift that story, that narrative inside that this happened to me, this was unfair to me, even though I tried and did all the right things, this still happened. Until we shift that, we can have all the external justice in the world, but in our hearts, in our head, in our the energy that we radiate, we're a victim.
Well, that's the thing. And so that's so important to allow ourselves to get out of that. Otherwise, you never heal,
No.
and you always stay again in that energy that is so heavy and so negative that you can't see beyond that.
Right. And then you attract more and more of it in because
Hmm.
what we expect is what we get. So if I expect my life to be unfair, it's going to be unfair. And if I think all men are creeps and if I think all people will lie, cheat, and steal, then they will because that's what I'm bringing in.
Exactly. So that's why I always say thinking positive and allowing yourself to heal from the past no matter what has happened to you,
Mhm.
whether it's infidelity or having a friend steal money from you or
Yes.
whatever it is, you can't always relive that in your mind because if you do that, you can't move forward and then your life
No.
stays exactly the same with the same type of energy and negativity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned the stealing money too. I had an employee walk away with a lot of money. And it's like, I can keep telling that story of how bad she was and how bad the system was, or I can release that, move it through, do my lessons, and it's easy to say, bless and release. But what else are you going to do?
Well,
What else are you
that's the
going
thing.
to
I
do?
mean, I had a very good friend that, I mean, we're talking about 35 years ago that took me for a little bit of a ride. But the thing is, had I set boundaries, okay, had I not, I wasn't able to say no, to her, which is all
Mhm.
boundaries. And instead of using that internal guide, that GPS of mine that always
Yes.
gets me in the right direction. I didn't listen. And
Nope.
I caused havoc on my life, my family. And it was
Hmm.
all my fault. I took the blame for it because I wasn't able to set the boundaries. I didn't say no, and I allowed her to control me.
Yes.
So I think boundaries, I think a lot of it is boundaries. I always tell my clients, you know, no is a complete sentence. You don't need to give all these other excuses because chances are you're going to get caught in some lies about it. So it's okay to say, I just can't, or I'm
Yes.
not able to, so I
Yeah.
would, I would imagine like in your case, you're probably now definitely setting boundaries, uh,
Yes.
with everything.
Hmm. Hmm. And that also made me see, was I not valuing my money along the way?
Hmm.
Because the story in my head was, I'm too busy. That's why I hired this employee to take care of the things that I don't want to take care of. But then on some level, I was not valuing the money, my business,
Businesses.
the process enough to still keep tabs on it because we can't completely release control.
Well, that's the thing. And I understand, that was a spiritual awakening for me, big time,
Hmm.
allowing somebody else to control me
Yeah.
with money. And
Yeah.
so it's amazing how we learn our lessons, and some are really hard, really
No, not
hard.
fun.
They're not fun, but it can either, again, bring you down, or to have that awareness to bring you up,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know.
And sometimes, like that, just asking yourself the questions. If this had a reason for
Mhm.
happening, what could that reason be?
Yeah. When I look back, I know what the reason was. She just was, taking some of my business.
Hmm.
That's all it was. And I allowed it. So, but you learn, and let me tell you, has never ever happened again. And now
No.
I'm on my own. I do my own thing,
Yes.
and I'm good to go. It's good. You
Hmm.
learn by your mistakes. You
Yeah, you absolutely do.
know. Hmm.
Absolutely do. And I'd rather be who I am now and how I am now than how I was before because I am much more wise.
Believe me, I am too.
Hmm.
A lot more wise.
Hmm.
And now that wisdom, helps my clients, which is so important.
Yes. Yes, that paying it forward because
Hmm.
for me, that was a piece of this too. I knew I could get bitter. I knew I could get resentful. I
Hmm.
knew I could really turn this into something bad and damaging. And I kept thinking, but I don't want to create more damage in the world. I am a positive, happy person. How can I take this and use it to serve not only myself, but others as well?
Yeah, I feel the same way,
Hmm.
and that's why I also, back then, I closed my business, and I
Okay.
actually went into the whole, alternative healing, got back
Nice.
to who I was.
Yes.
And I said, in a way, I said, thank you for causing me deep sorrow and pain,
Yeah.
because you got me now here where I'm meant to be.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because what I really find is betrayal does some of the heavy lifting. There
Hmm.
were things that were not addressed in my marriage. There were ways I just bit my tongue and let things go. My husband did not address his childhood trauma. I was not addressing the finances in the business when this employee took money away. Betrayal, oh, I always say betrayal uncovers the truth. And it uncovers the truth of what you are not addressing, but
Right.
what it's time to address. It uncovers the truth of that thing that's going to move you forward into that next elevation.
Oh, without a doubt. Boy. But I know now, and no one takes advantage, and I won't allow them to. So,
Oh no.
and nor will I ever cheat again. So, and especially at this
Right.
age. But it's funny because sometimes I have some of my clients. Um, they tell me, do you ever work on men? And besides some of the women being like absolutely beautiful, some of the men clients are like so handsome. I one time had an Elvis Presley impersonator.
Oh my
I
goodness.
know. And I said to myself, oh God, it's getting a little warm in here.
Exactly.
Because I used to love Elvis Presley. But you say to yourself, well, this is, my the whole thing is to help people to heal, not to look at them, on a physical level. I look at them on a soul and spiritual level.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's so important. So, getting to that, I know, because I was reading your bio that you channel a group called the Librarians.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, who are they? And how does, their channeling, help you, like, I guess, with your clients and help, heal emotional wounds.
Yeah, absolutely. They are a group of record keepers. Um, Sometimes people have heard of the Akashic records.
Hmm.
And those are like the records of each of our individual incarnations. It's the record of our individual soul. Who the librarians are is they keep the records of the collective lessons that we go through. So humans experience judgment, they experience poverty, they experience betrayal, they experience war mentality. We have these collective lessons that we have here on earth. And the librarians collect the wisdom from all of the souls. Because as we all go through these lessons, it doesn't only impact us, it impacts us as humanity.
Hmm.
So if we are all learning how to become kinder, if we are all learning how to transcend judgment, we are doing that work on behalf of all souls everywhere. And the librarians keep those records of the lessons. So, on a spiritual level, if I am facing something that is new to me, maybe forgiveness, maybe, judgment, betrayal, whatever it is, I don't only access my soul and my guides, I can go to the collective unconscious and learn what are other souls learning around this lesson.
Okay, so it's more like tapping into an intuitive ability or psychic ability then.
Yes, yes. And it's so helpful because you were talking about when you see things as through a spiritual lens, it takes away so much of that human pain.
Hmm.
As souls, we are learning these lessons together. We are having this difficult infidelity experience in service of both of our growth and development. It's not personal from a soul. You're perfect. I'm perfect. We're all perfect. We've just agreed to go through these lessons, not only in service of our own growth, but to help other souls out as well.
Do you feel it's something that we've been through in a past life?
In some cases, yes. Yeah.
So then the librarians, they're like you could say like archangels or angels that guide you for your clients.
Yeah, they hold the record of the lesson. So when I work with my clients and they're struggling with why did this happen to me? Well, let's tap into the librarians. What are some of the lessons? Why do some souls choose to experience poverty, betrayal, all of the things where we say, why me? Why would I go through this? Well, here's what some of the other souls experiencing that lesson learn from that. Here's some of the wisdom that they have learned. You can now access this wisdom so you don't have to figure it all out on your own.
Oh yeah, because when we're not alone. I mean, things that
No.
happen to us, so many people go through the same scenarios.
Yeah.
And that's what, it's important to understand. I have one client that she has a daughter. Her daughter
Hmm.
lives in another state, and the daughter has three children,
Hmm.
very rarely calls the mother. The mother keeps on asking, we want to visit, we want to come over. There's like nothing, and she always comes to me telling me she's so, torn, and why is her child, not inviting her to come, to visit. She doesn't know what the kids look like. They don't even do video with her. And I tell her, unfortunately, he needs to learn, or rather, she needs to learn something.
Hmm.
There's some lesson here. I mean, unfortunately for the mother, she's hurt inside,
Yes.
and it is, a betrayal. And she'll tell me, what have I ever done wrong, to this child? She
Right.
probably has done nothing wrong, but for some reason, her daughter uh, just doesn't want to speak to her. I mean, what would you tell somebody like that? Because every she comes to me all the time, and I'm just lost for words already. I already tell her, You're not alone here. I'm sure there's so many other mothers and fathers that are going through the same thing with their children.
Oh yeah, that's very common, which is sad. Yeah. A couple of different things around betrayal. What makes betrayal so hard, that sense of betrayal, is it's not just grief and it's not just loss. What makes it so hard is it impacts your identity.
Hmm.
So she probably had the identity of, I am a good mom. I'm going to be a great grandma. So her identity is being ruptured.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
must not
big
be have
time.
been a good mom. I,
Hmm.
I can't even be the grandma I want. So I don't know who to be because my view of who I am must be wrong because somebody else is feeding me that information. And this feedback loop doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So she's like, I'm a good person, but I'm being shown evidence that clearly I must not be. And that's what keeps you stuck in that betrayal
That
loop.
betrayal. Hmm.
Hmm.
And that's why I keep on telling her, you are a good person, you are a good soul. It could be just maybe your daughter's going through, you don't know the partner, maybe they just want to be left alone. You just don't know. And
No.
I keep on telling her, maybe one day they'll understand and then they'll reach out, you know.
Hmm.
But in the time, you need to live your life and to be who you are, and to move forward because you can't constantly be thinking about, all the could have, would have, should have's because you'll
No.
probably never know what the could have, should have, would have would be.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, like that, for accessing the librarians around her situation. There's some abandonment, feelings of abandonment going on there. So
Hmm.
then it's what are the lessons that, why are souls choosing to be abandoned? Why are souls choosing to have their family members, not talk to them anymore? So let's find some of these lessons. Okay, maybe there's a self-reliance piece. Maybe there's a communication piece. Maybe there's all of these different things. Maybe there's a self-worth piece. Maybe there is becoming more assertive in creating your own life and
Hmm.
not allowing other people to define you. Maybe it's a real sense of self-expression that I do get to define myself and I get to express who I am, and this doesn't matter. So it's looking through all of these different lessons and then having it kind of gel for you. Oh, there is a piece of me where I am handing over my power to her. Here are
Hmm.
the things that I can do.
Well, that's the thing. So yeah, but unfortunately, some people just they can't get over it,
No.
and that's the pity is that then you live in that same scenario day in day out.
Hmm.
And just be who you are and live your life and whatever happens it happens. And the thing is that from a lot of my clients because I deal with a lot of people and um I always tell her, you're not alone,
No.
you're not alone. But I guess those words for some reason just can't help her move forward.
Hmm.
I should give her your number because
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what else to do for her. I
Right.
mean, we've done hypnotherapy, we've done, healing. I do affirmations with her. But she just wants to stay in that.
Yeah. And it would be interesting to unpack why, because
Hmm.
on a lot of levels, it is a choice. What is this getting her?
Yeah. Now,
Hmm.
I also notice you do some somatic healing.
Yes, I
What what
do.
ex- what is somatic healing?
Oh, it is so amazing. It is just using the body because all of the emotions, the thoughts, we store in our bodies. And I always say you can't think your way out of trauma. We
Hmm.
can understand things, we can rationalize anything, but that's just our intellect, that's just our mind. What's going on in our bodies? Where are we holding this toxic energy? How can I allow myself to feel fully, to cry, to move? We have been shut down as a society, really, when it comes to moving. Little kids, when they're having a tantrum, they roll on the floor and they express it.
Uh-huh. I
No,
think I used to do that as a child.
yes, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And it's good for us, and we're told to sit down and be still. And we're so polite and constrained when it comes to really using our bodies. And when we can identify, where am I holding this grief? Is this grief in my chest? And how can I release it? What are the movements that I can do? I'm kind of doing almost like a forward circular motion with my chest that kind of mimics when you're in heaving sobs. You do this circular heave of the chest. But what is this doing? Okay, it's generating some of that grief. It's spiraling it up. It's letting it come out my throat. It's letting it come out my forehead, my third eye. It's helping me release this out of my body and then shaking things and stirring it up. Sometimes tapping your body, feeling it, loosening it. Let that stuck energy out of the tissues, out of the cells of your body.
So do you think it has a lot to do with it, with the energy centers, the chakras?
Definitely.
Definitely, especially
Yeah.
the root and the sacral, where we
Yeah.
hold everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
S-
Yeah. And just fear, like that fear at the back of the neck, when you're like, oh, and we start clenching and we start holding. And when somebody's looking at you and you feel self-conscious, think about all the things that your body just naturally does, the ways we shrink, the ways we hide, the ways we
Mhm.
just don't express ourselves. We don't let that life force flow.
Well, that's the thing. So, how do you think people can learn to what's the word? Learn to trust themselves again, so
Mhm.
that they're able to heal.
Yeah. It's it's a process. And that's where I think movement can be so powerful. One of the first things that I have people do is just turn on some music that moves you and just move. I don't care if you're just in a chair and you're just moving side to side. I don't care if you're dancing wildly through your living room. Make it a full body experience.
Hmm.
Roll on the floor, sing if that feels good. Just move.
Yeah,
And don't think about, yeah, I have to choreograph this. How do I look? And once we can start trusting our bodies just to move again, I think that's where it really starts.
well, it's funny because getting back to my first thing with the money situation, um, in order for me to really say, all right, I got to clear this now, I would put on disco music and dance,
Yes.
and it just brought
Yes.
all that back. So, yeah. And that's what I did. I actually just, danced, did whatever. Yeah, movement does clear that heaviness from you without a doubt.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And my book and my podcast, all the stuff that I do is around the word flaunt. And I love it because whenever we're hurt or scared or afraid, we compress. And flaunting is just that freedom of being like, this is me. And if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. And if not, that's great. But this is who I am.
Well, and that's what we have to understand, that, we have to not give our power away, and be our authentic selves, which is so
Yes.
important.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't know who that authentic self is because we have been conditioned, since day one to make other people happy and to do the right thing. And it's hard. And that's why I think movement is so freeing. One of the other things that I tell my people to do, and this sounds so funny, is as an adult, go play because adults aren't supposed to play, so there's no rules around it. So whether it's getting Play-Doh or whether it's coloring or whether, it's doing dolls or trucks, do something that is play and allow yourself to feel how awkward and weird this feels. I've got Legos and I don't know what to do with them, and this feels weird and I'm
Mhm.
not having fun. And that's the whole point, is
Mhm.
to do something where there isn't a rule around it. Just dink around.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because, I mean, my grandchildren, they're all in their 20s now. But when we would all go to the park, I would, I'd get on the swing and I'd start to say, Grandma, what are you doing? Yeah, come on the swing
Yes,
with me. Let's be kids again. We
we
forget
forget.
how it feels to have fun.
Yes, yes. And when we can tap back into that, then we do
Mhm.
start trusting ourselves again. Then we start knowing, well, what is authentic for me?
Oh yeah, and I had lots of fun on that swing.
I bet.
Actually, my Kyla, she took a video and sent it to my daughter.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and I said, it's good. Why not? I'm not ashamed of what I'm doing. I'm happy about it. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes we need to just loosen up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so many rules, there's so many constraints, and
Hmm.
it keeps us so worried that we're going to get a toe out of line or say or do the wrong thing. And it drains our life force and it eventually ends to, dis-ease in the body and the mind and the spirit. And
Exactly.
then we wonder, why am I so miserable?
Well, that's it. And I always say, just be yourself and, forget about, trying to be like somebody else and just have fun no matter what you're doing. And
Yeah.
it's so important. Yeah, we get caught up in, what is the other person going to say or think about me? Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like the whole power thing. I was just having this conversation with my mom the other day, and she was saying how scary it was, how bad it was when she was in high school. And people would say, well, girls who walk alone or girls who go out dancing alone, they're easy and how that would limit her behavior and inhibit her. And it's
Mhm.
like, so you're really that afraid of being called easy? Were you easy? No. It's just the fear that
Yep.
somebody else might think that
Hmm.
curbs our behavior. And that's how we give our power away. Other people can think anything that they want, but
Well,
why would we give our power to them and live in
exactly.
accordance to it?
It's funny. When I was married and had, kids and finally got back into the workforce, one of my job, I was a regional sales director for General Nutrition Centers, 40 locations, 500 employees, and my father one day, looked at me and he said, why are you taking on all this responsibility? Why don't you just stay at home with your kids and leave that job for a man? And I said, oh man, boy, talking about starting,
Oh, yeah.
poking at me, don't do this, and I looked at him and I said, you want to know why I'm doing this? And he said, why? I said, because I am free to be me, and so I
Yeah.
shall be. And
Yeah.
he didn't know what to say,
That's
but
funny.
he never, said anything to me again. And I says, wow, but of course, I mean, he was,
Oh, yeah.
you're talking really old school, and women should be home and not working. But yeah, and so if I was weak-minded, I would have maybe thought about it and said, oh, maybe I should, stay home. But I said, no, I
Yeah.
this is who I am, and why not be me?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's normal to care about the reactions of others. When I first quit my job as a corporate attorney, I wanted to stay home for a while. And I was really afraid of what people would say to that. And it's like I had to talk myself through that.
Hmm.
Okay, you can be concerned all
Hmm.
you want, but whose life is this?
Exactly, it's
And
yours.
yeah, does it matter what they say or what they think? No, it doesn't.
Right. And that's why I tell all my clients, you know what? Don't worry about what other people say or think. It doesn't matter. It's what you think and feel about yourself. That's all that counts.
Yeah.
Know that you are worthy, you are loved, you are whole,
Mhm.
you are enough,
Mhm.
and just go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And 9 times out of 10, the fear is greater than the reality. I would build things up so much in my head that I'm so afraid
Mhm.
of this and I'm so afraid of that. And then it happens and you're like, oh, that wasn't a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's
I'm fine. We're fine. It's all good.
I know, it's funny because when we moved here 21 years ago, and when we moved here, I had gone to a networking group because, I left everything back east and decided to come to California where my daughter was,
Yeah.
and my
Gotcha.
grandchildren, and someone had mentioned to me that they were building a Four Seasons hotel in Westlake, which was
Ooh.
only, about 20 minutes from my home. And and I says, "Oh, I should maybe put, a resume because at the time now I stepped into my true identity, which was a healer, a therapist, and coach." And so I went, and lo and behold, I was the one that got the job. But before that, my friends from back east would tell me, you know, you're from Brooklyn. They don't want somebody from Brooklyn. Why do you think you're going to get this job at a luxurious Four Seasons hotel doing energy healing and hypnotherapy? They're looking for somebody who's worldly. And I said to myself, take those thoughts and throw them to the ground.
Exactly.
That's not who
No.
I am. And I ended up getting the job. I worked there for 15 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And you say to yourself, wow, that could have lessened my confidence in myself just by
Hmm.
hearing other people say those words to me. But I remember growing up, my grandma would always say she'd call me Babasita, and she'd say, if anybody talks negative about you, or if you think negative about yourself, take those thoughts and throw them on the ground and stomp on them and send them off with love and light and healing.
I love
And
that.
to this day, I still do that, by the way.
Oh, good. What a beautiful practice.
Yes, because it's what somebody else thinks of you, not who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And people can think all sorts of things about you that aren't true. And
Exactly.
yeah, that's that taking back your power is I know who I am, and you can think you can love me or
Right.
hate me or anything, and it
Exactly.
doesn't change who I am.
So, getting back to our conversation, so let me ask you, what's like one simple practice that um, someone can actually do today, uh, where they can reconnect their inner truth, after they are feeling broken, or betrayed.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is just a three-part exercise, and it's super simple. I do this many times a day. Tap your head, whether it's your third eye or the top of your head, and just say, "What do I think?" And just answer yourself. Don't go deep into thought. Just be
Hmm.
like, "What do I think?" I think I'm going to do it. Then tap your heart and move your wisdom down into your heart
Hmm.
and say, what do I feel? And just let it come out. Oh, God, I really want to do it. And then tap your gut, whether it's, low belly or womb space or whatever it is, and find that center point of your body and then ask yourself, well, what do I know? And then your gut will say, I know it's wrong. And you've got 3 points of connection. And it's not that it's always 2 out of 3, but it gives you information. If my
Yes.
gut knows it to be wrong, but my head really wants it to be a yes, and I really feel like I want it to be a yes,
Uh-huh.
then when you make that decision, at least you know when it gets my gut on that one.
I always say, listen to that voiceless voice, that feeling. It'll never steer you wrong.
Hmm.
But this does it in a different way. But that feeling is always there. Trust
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people actually do not trust their intuition sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
The example for me, what I tell people, say you're in your car and you're lost, you know,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden this feeling says go right. This says go left. You listen to this and you go left and you say, I knew I should have went right.
Exactly.
Yeah, trust that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
And there's so much power in that, just identifying
hmm.
where it's coming from.
Exactly. And I feel it's our higher self,
Hmm.
that speaks to us all the time, but unfortunately we chose sometimes not to listen to it.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, that's fair too. I'm really big into I'm not going to shame myself. I thought it was the right decision. I led with my intellect. I did all this stuff. I thought it was the right decision. Didn't turn out to be, but you know what? That's okay.
Right. Hmm.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, mistakes help us grow.
Hmm.
That's how I
Yeah.
feel. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
they're there for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. Ah, gee, I can talk to you for a longer time here.
That's
You
what
know?
I was thinking too. I was like, I want to keep going.
I know. All right. Well, where can our listeners, reach out to you?
Yeah, a couple of different places. My main website is loracheadle.com, and Laura is spelled Lora. Very simple, just Laura, Cheadle.com. And if you're interested in some of the wisdom that comes from the librarian, if you go to coffeewiththelibrarians.com, it's like sitting down and having coffee with the
Mhm.
librarians. I'll send you my monthly energy update so you can hear what the librarians have to say about what's coming up the following month.
Oh, this is wonderful. Well, all that'll be in the notes, your website and who you are and, anything that you want to share. But,
Lovely.
I cannot thank you enough. This was a wonderful hour, very informative, believe me. Um,
Good.
and I thank you so much for being a guest on my show, and sharing your wisdom and your light, with all of us today. Um, I'm deeply grateful for the insights and inspiration that you brought
Mhm.
into this sacred space, because it is a sacred space, because we're
Yeah.
actually opening up and saying how we really feel and things that have happened to us. So,
Yeah.
I thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for creating this space and for cultivating this conversation. It was a good one.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. And I need to thank my dear listeners for opening your hearts and joining us on this journey. And remember, you are all powerful. You are loved. You, you are light and beauty. And I want you to understand that your light matters more than you'll ever know, to yourself. And, until next time, keep shining, keep believing in yourself and know that you are never, ever alone, on this journey, on this path. And just wishing everybody a beautiful week filled with love and with light. Love, Barbara.